Hi there, I want to explore with you the use of Turnitin as a way to help us formatively assess if our writing is of an appropriate standard. This is regarding paraphrasing predominantly. Turnitin, as you may know, is used by most universities, and rather than it be used as a way of catching out, as it were, students who perhaps copy too closely to the original sources, I think it's best used formatively by the students themselves in order to help them improve the level of their own writing. Okay, so here at BCU, to get onto the Turnitin Moodle site, we'll start from the ICT homepage, and from there I'm going to go into Moodle. Now if you're not already enrolled on Turnitin, you'll have to find it, and the way to find it, interestingly, isn't via this button, but you have to go to what's known as Site Home. So here at the top left you can see there's a little blue tab. I'm going to click on that and click on that second item down, Site Home. That brings up a search box, and in there I'll put in Turnitin. Now you won't need an enrolment key for this. Here we are, it's found just the one item, Turnitin at BCU, so click on that. No enrolment key, no password required, and we're now into the BCU Central Turnitin page. It isn't linked to a specific faculty, so you can access it from whichever faculty you are in. If I scroll down the page, there's some very interesting articles which I'll invite you to look at in your own time regarding plagiarism and the use of Turnitin, etc. But I'm going to go straight down to the section called Formative Submission. I'm going to click on Submit here for Turnitin Originality Check-in. Okay, that brings up this box. Now I've used it before, so instead of saying Submit New Submission, it simply says Edit Submission. So I'm going to click Edit Submission to allow me to upload one. It only allows you to have one uploaded at a time, but that's fine by me. And I want to find my file. Now I've prepared one before which I made up myself so that not to embarrass anybody, but I've not done a very good job of it. So I've put one very short 2-paragraph mini essay called Pain. I've uploaded that. Then I scroll down and click Save Changes. Now with Turnitin, because it's got such a wide usage, and because I'm near the end of April using it, there's going to be a lot of students using this around the world, so I'm not expecting it to turn around very quickly. It can be as little as 5 to 10 minutes, but when I did this last week it took something like 45 minutes. So now I just wait. Now I will get 2 emails, one to say that I've submitted and one to say that it's being processed, but I've noticed in the past I don't get an email to say that it has completed. I'll know it's completed when on this page there'll be a percentage number appear in a little box. So what I do, there's my Moodle email appearing, so what I do is periodically I just click the refresh button. As you can see, nothing's happened so far, so I'm going to come back to that. It's just shy of 10 AM when I've uploaded it, so we'll see how long that takes. Okay, about 20 minutes later we have our processing completed and we have a rather alarming score of 78%. Now we want to ideally get it to perhaps no higher than 10% to be on the safe side. Whilst this looks alarming, it is actually a falsely amplified value, and here's why. If I click on this 78%, on this similarity number, it'll pull up a similarity index report. So let's see what that tells us. Now the report is simply your own upload, in this case my assignment, and it is color coded. It is color coded to let you know where there are phrases or sentences that are deemed to be close copies to originals found elsewhere. Now Turnitin has a very large and extensive collection of writings, journal articles, books, etc., from which to do a comparison. Now you will have noticed, just as I scroll down there, one thing that did stand out is my reference list. Now it seems to have identified my reference list as being a problem, so what I'll do is I'll take care of that in a moment with filters. And one other thing I spotted at the very top was that I did a direct quote here It was a definition of pain as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage. So I'm going to go into filters, which is clicking on this little funnel icon, and we'll click on where it says exclude quotes and exclude bibliography. Hopefully that will take care of my quotation problem and the reference list. If I click apply changes, see if that percentage goes down. It has gone down from 77% was it, down to 52%, still alarmingly high. Whilst it's gone down a small amount, it has not taken care of the quotation or, if we scroll down, the reference issue. Now the reason for this is quite straightforward to resolve. The direct quotes in Turnitin should be always in double speech marks, and here we've used single speech marks. I can easily remedy that. And my reference list, well, we put here the word refs, and it should have the correct title, references, and that is why Turnitin did not spot or take care of the references. So what I propose doing is I'm just going to take care and correct those two items, the quotation marks and my reference list, and see how that impacts on the score. So I'm going to close this feedback window down. I'm going to edit submission. I'll remove the one that I've got. Then I'll go back to my computer, and I know that I have already made that small change, and I've called it Pain V2. I'll put that one in. Again, click save, and then we play the waiting game. Now this worth pointing out at this point what is happening with Turnitin. Because I have enrolled onto the Moodle page via BCU, it means that this is a holding page, as it were, and whilst it is comparing my writing with its entire extensive catalogue of essays, journal articles, etc., it is not including my actual writing. It is recognizes that it's a draft version, and therefore it is not saving my version. So there is no danger here that my Pain version 2 would be compared to what had been a moment ago my Pain version 1. And this is an important point. Turnitin will permit you to create your own account free of charge if you just go onto the Turnitin homepage via Google. But the trouble with that is that you are then putting your drafts out there into the Turnitin catalogue, and therefore you run the risk of what's called self-plagiarism, something you certainly are not in actuality doing, but this is why it is very important to stick to this version of Turnitin. Of course, module readers can also have a Turnitin upload invoked into their actual Moodle page for whichever module they're running. If they have offered that version of Turnitin, then you should use that particular submission point. But I know from experience that many modules do not offer such a local upload point, and therefore then as a second option you should always come to the central Turnitin Moodle page. So we're just going to wait to see how long this takes. Okay, it's finished the processing of my adjusted version, what I've called my version 2. It's given a value of 75%, even though our original value of 78% had gone down to 52%, but this is because I suspect it's reset the filters. So let's click on the percentage similarity to open up the report, and again I'm going to go into my filters, and as I suspected, it had unticked those boxes, so I'm going to ask it to exclude quotes, which I'm hoping now will have a positive effect, and exclude bibliography, which I also hope will have an effect. Now last time we got it down to 52%, let's see what we get now. So apply changes, so we're now down to 45%. So that high watermark of 78% has come down quite a bit. However, I'm sure you'll agree that my target value of 10% is still quite a way off. Just to check, here we can see our direct quote is now no longer highlighted because I used the correct double speech marks, and if I scroll down to my reference list, that also has no longer been highlighted or color coded, because I now have the correct title for my reference list. We'll now get down to the main business of what Turnitin can really do to help you in your writing, and that is to identify those sentences or blocks of sentences where you feel that you could have done a better job of paraphrasing. The thing you're looking out for here is blocks of colour. Now, I'm not worried about this thing here. This is a reference, so I can safely ignore that, but it's this kind of thing. Best part of a sentence, word for word, it has found an exact match. Now, you could even go to where that exact match is. I'm not going to worry about that. Simply to use this colour coding as a way of identifying where in my writing I could do more work. I mean, look at this one here in lilac. It isn't fully coloured in lilac, but you can see that what I have done here is I've taken the original sentence and just added one or two other words. This is not effective paraphrasing. It is not done the job of paraphrasing, which is simply to recouch the ideas into my own words in order to show my own understanding. So that would want working on. In fact, these first three want working on. As I go down, you can see there's also still plenty of places where work is to be done. Here, for example, I'm not worried about short words like that. I can safely ignore those, but whole sentences or blocks of sentences, certainly I can. There's one here that's worth pointing out. There's something here called the Wong-Baker Faces of Pain scale, which is obviously a tool used for identifying levels of scale. This sort of expression I cannot rephrase, recouch. I cannot put it into my own words, and this is why you virtually cannot get down to a 0% similarity index, because you will be using words and phrases that are inescapably set in stone. This is why we have to set ourselves a realistic target. But I think there is work to be done here. So what I've done for my third and final version is I took this poorly paraphrased version and I worked on those areas that I thought wanted better attention. So let's now have a look at that. I want to delete my submission, so I think it's best here just to remove my submission. That's probably the quickest. Yes, I do want to remove my submission. That clears it. Then I want to edit submission, in other words, upload a fresh version. That's a nice empty box. Go back to the place in my computer which housed the versions, and it is version 3 I'm going to slide in. This is the version that I have done some work on, hopefully improving the paraphrasing. Click Save Changes, and again play the waiting game. And we're done. That one took about half an hour, and we've got a score of 59%, but we know by now not to take that too seriously. Let's click on that similarity index. Should bring up the report page, and let's see if my paraphrasing had any effect. I'll go into filter and click on exclude quotes and exclude bibliography, apply changes, and it's come down to 13%. That's pretty good. I think I'm fairly close to where I want to be. Okay, I was aiming for 10%. 13% I think I'll accept on this occasion as an example of how this works. But you can see now, just browsing through my writing, there's a lot less has been coloured in. There was the inevitable name of the pain scale, but apart from that, very little for me to worry about. In any case where you submitted a piece of writing to your tutors and there was a question mark over a high similarity index, they certainly would do what I have done today. They would not only look at the number, but they would upload it and have a look to see if there were any obvious issues regarding things like quotations, reference lists, that kind of thing. I'm hoping that this video has shown you that it is relatively easy to use, that apart from the aspect of having a bit of patience with Turnitin, it is a very useful resource. And as you can see, I uploaded 3 versions of the same assignment, and they even had different names, remember, and it did not self-compare but simply compared against its repository of extensive resources. My number initially was an alarming 78%, and with not a great deal of work I brought that down. I think that the most important thing that you have to get right early on in your writing is effective paraphrasing. Whilst we could have included more direct quotations, that would not give us the credit for demonstrating our own understanding. So we usually would want you to shy away from direct quotations and instead use paraphrasing. Of course, don't forget, even with paraphrasing, whilst it's my understanding that I'm now expressing, it has still come from the ideas of other people, and therefore it is still important to have the correct citations. But I'm hoping that that was a useful exercise for you to see, and I hope it will embolden you to use Turnitin yourself. I myself recommend to my students that they use Turnitin for each and every submission well before submission day, so they have plenty of time to react, correct and re-upload in case there is a too high a value to see. It's also worth asking your tutors ahead of each assignment to see if they have a Turnitin submission point on their Moodle page. But one thing you must avoid doing is submitting your formative papers to more than one Turnitin submission points. Pick one and stick to it. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.